they're deep. Their bench is deep, so they can sub all game long. And a lot of the teams, national teams in other countries, don't have as deep a bench and get tired by the end of the fourth quarter. You know what? A lot of teams can play even up with the U.S. for the first quarter, maybe even the first half. But you'll watch them just fall apart in the third quarter or the fourth quarter and lose by 5 or 6.
So we're talking about strength in depth on the American bench.
And this game we have the number 1 seed, which is the U.S., against France, who are the 8th seed. They got in through the European finals. So they're new. This is the first time they've been to an international tournament.
Well, it's a combative game. If you've not seen it before, you may have seen a documentary a few years ago. Duncan, where do you stand as one of the originators of this game with the title that you hear bandied about, a murder ball?
I get a kick out of it because that's actually what we named it when we first started this game. And then we decided that it might not help us to raise money if it was called murder ball. So we figured out that rugby is the closest kind of in terms of the psychology of the game. Rugby is the closest game to this wheelchair rugby in that you can hit and the attitudes of the players are similar and you score the same way. You cross the goal line with the ball.
And these are players like in Chuck Aoki there, that they like the physical contact. That's what defines rugby and American footballers.
That's true.
It's the one-on-one. It's the physicality that is the attractive part.
Yeah. Canadians, we love hockey, and you hit in hockey.
Oh, you do, don't you? I
think ice hockey. I have to say ice hockey.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes, I think it's tacitly encouraged a little bit of.
It is.
Yes.
All right, here we
hockey.
go.
All right, about to get underway. 4 quarters of 8 minutes to come. Number 1 ranked team, the United States. They won a medal all 3 Paralympic wheelchair rugby tournaments so far. Hotly fancied against the 8th-seeded French team.
There we go. So that was just out of bounds off the jump. So it's blue ball, U.S. ball, throw on.
What is the attitude of the French team, knowing that they are underpowered against the Americans, going to be like in the opening few minutes, Duncan?
Well, I think they're going to try as hard as they can to stay even with them for a while. I think they know they probably don't have much of a hope, but they're going to take it as a learning experience. They're going to play as hard as they can and see what they can get out of it.
And tactically, what are they going to have to do?
Oh,
quite a hit coming in. Aoki, the man who got the first goal for the USA, putting a hit in on one of the star men for the French team, Riyad Salam there, the number 9.
He is their main man. Now, you can hit in the game, but there are rules about hits that might be dangerous. So we'll see what happens with this call. I'm not sure if they made a call. I think Riyad actually sort of ran into the hit, so it may have been his fault. I don't see them calling a penalty. So that means that when he went down with the ball, he gets called for a physical advantage, and it's a turnover. So the U.S. is already up 2-0.
Same man with the score for the United States. The number 5, Chuck Aoki, plays in Tucson for the Pterodactyls. We do like covering North American teams because there's some great names of your teams scattered around the United States and Canada.
What happened there? Oh, they had to call a timeout. So what's happening here is the U.S. know that Riyad is their main man, the guy they have to get the ball to. So the U.S. is basically triple teaming him and making the other players play the game.
Which comes back to your original point about the strength and depth that the United States have against the French. They don't have anyone like Riyad, is what you're saying.
Actually, all of their guys are probably like Riyad.
But
not quite. I should not say that.
But he is the main man.
He's the main ball carrier for their team, whereas the U.S. have 4 or 5 guys that can all carry the ball.
Well, he's got a good turn of pace as Riyad Salam. France on the attack for the first time. Eric Maurice on the far side.
See what they called there. He was. What happens on the sidelines? He was very close to the sidelines, so you can hit. So the U.S. player hit him, trying to knock him out of bounds. And I think, it looks like he called a timeout before he went out of bounds. If he would have just gone out of bounds, it would have been a turnover.
If you've been watching any of the wheelchair basketball, you'll see, I think, an enormous difference here where most hits seem to be legal in this game apart from a hit from behind. Is that correct?
Yeah, a hit from behind, or if you hit a guy when he's going by behind the axle, which makes him spin and lose it. He'll go over.
France get on the scorecard. Eric Maurice, the man with with that score for them. So USA coming away with the man who scored 2 so far, Aoki, at pace. And Duncan, tell us about the time limitations you have in this game.
There's three or four basic time regulations. One is you have 10 seconds to make the inbound pass, or it's a turnover, or you have to take a timeout. The second one is, a turnover again. And this is a game of turnovers, and already France has turned it over 3 times. So you have a 10-second inbound, which they got it in. They just didn't get to the right team. And then you have 40 seconds to score, and within that 40 seconds, you got 12 seconds to get over half. So most teams play a real pressure defense to try and get a turnover on that 12-second call. Let's see, he got hit, and he was going out of bounds. He had to use another timeout. You're allowed 4 timeouts per game that can be called on the floor, and 2 bench timeouts that you can call at a stoppage in play, but the coach has to call those. So they've already used 3 of their timeouts.
Already France up against it in this final game in the group for both teams. Already, of course, USA through to the semi-finals. Would it be unfair to be calling this a warm-up game for the
US?
Yeah.
You know what? I wouldn't even call it a warm-up game. I think this is a game for the guys that ride the bench. This is a game for the guys that don't usually get a lot of playing time.
Joe Delagrave getting that latest score for
Riyadh,
the United States, but Riyadh Salam,
who's a very good player. He just needs a little supporting cast. And France hasn't been around the international circuit for long. They'll get better. You know, this is what's happening. They'll get better. In this tournament, there's 8 teams, and I would say probably the top 6 are very, very good.
Not much between the top 6, you're saying?
No. And then and even Belgium is pretty good. Belgium played Canada very, very well and can win the odd game. Here goes Riyadh again.
He's been around on the French team for a while.
He used to play basketball, too. And his back wheels are up in the air. His front wheel casters are on the floor. That's a physical advantage.
I think we call that a sandwich.
Yes. Yeah, now. The thing that you might not understand is that you can hit chair-to-chair contact is totally legal, but you can't hit arm-to-arm or in the ribs or any of that kind of stuff. You can't sort of throw a punch at anybody or anything like that. You have to. You can reach for the ball, but if you hit arm, you get a penalty for that.
So no hitting them in the face as they go.
None of that kind of stuff. So what it's like is the chair contact is totally legal, but the rest of the contact is called a little bit like basketball. They've turned it over again.
Derek Helton's the number 13 for the team in blue, the United States of America, with a 6-2 lead already.
And I think with the exception of Chuck Aoki on the floor right now, the 3 guys they've got on there didn't play the last game that I announced for the U.S.
Joe Delagrave plays for the Phoenix Fusion in Arizona. So France on the attack. Sebastian Huiser. Eric Maurice is the number 2.
Another turnover.
Riyadh Salam disappointed. You saw quite a few of the world's top teams just a couple of months ago in Canada, Duncan.
Actually, I saw the same 8 teams. We hosted something called the Canada Cup in Vancouver, and it's a warm-up event for the Paralympics or for the World Championship. So we do it every 2 years, and we invite the top 8 teams in the world. They all love it. They come, and at that tournament, the U.S. won. They were upset in the round robin by Japan, which was a bit of a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
They had 1 or 2 players that weren't there. Chuck Aoki was not there. And that was France's sort of big introduction to international tournaments. It was a very good tournament, and Canada came in with a silver, and Australia came in with a bronze. Australia is looking very, very good in this tournament.
USA building up that margin by 6 so far.
Yeah, 9-3. It's not even halfway through the first period. All right, France has got the ball again. They got to get over half within 12 seconds, and the U.S. is just putting the defense on them.
A lot of marking going on of Salam Aoki with him. Salam making a lot of pace.
Oh, that was... Okay, now we're going to see what happens here, because that could have been called a flagrant foul. The game was implemented something called a flagrant foul about 2 or 3 years ago, because people were hitting them when they go across the goal on a regular basis, and people were getting close to getting hurt. And that was quite late.
But didn't Aoki have a chance there of bouncing Salam away from the area and away from scoring?
He had a chance, but he hit him a little late.
Right.
If he would have hit him earlier, yes. Now we'll see what they did, because if they called a flagrant, then Aoki has to stay off the court for 3 goals for 3 minutes. If it was just a regular foul, they would just call a penalty goal. He wouldn't even go off the floor.
Olivier Cousin is the coach of the French team.
Yeah, it looks like they just called a regular penalty goal, because Chuck's on the floor still. In fact, he just got rid of the ball to who's that, Derek Helton?
Derek Hilton it is, number 13, and Aoki, yes, you're right, still on the court.
The U.S. could play anybody that they wanted to at this particular point and still pretty much win this game. But they are a strong, strong team. They've won by over 10 in every game they've played, I think, in the round robin.
Tell us a bit about the chairs they use. I mean, there was a Mad Max appearance to them. Obviously very robust, but how long would a chair like Chuck Aoki's last in major competition?
If you're at this level of play, your chair is going to last you 18 months to 2 years. And they're worth about $3,500 to $8,000, depending on who manufactures them. There's a European manufacturer that makes rugby chairs, and they charge like $8,000 for them.
Riyad Salam getting another goal back for France. 6 down. There is a very good office in the Athletes Village where a lot of running repairs are done to prosthetic limbs and chairs. It's quite fascinating to spend time in there, welding and hammering and banging, and more than one of these chairs getting a bit of a bashing the other day when I was there.
I was on my way over here and ran into an individual that I've known for years who is working for Autobach and has volunteered to come over here, and he's a welder for the rugby tournament. Yeah. So he's welding one of the Canadian chairs right now. The other thing about these chairs you might notice is that some of them are short and have wings that protect them, and they're not as long. And then there's some other ones that are a bit long and have kind of a bumper out the front. And those are the offensive or defensive chairs, and they're made for different things. So the offensive chairs are made to repel anybody from holding you or getting their chair on you, and the defensive ones are made to do exactly that: get onto somebody and hold on to them. And there's chair checks at the start of every tournament to make sure they're all legal, and there's very strict rules about what size they can be and how high the bars can be and all those things. There's the U.S. putting up another one.
Joe Delagrave again.
13-5. I'm wondering if they'll take Chuck Aoki out, because he is a very, very good player. There's probably no need for him to be playing in this game, but he is. Come on. Another turnover.
Just too far for Sebastian Huisa.
Olivier's not sure what to do at this particular point. Looks like he's going to make a sub. Okay, the U.S. has made some subs. Oh, this is interesting. My goodness. They basically put their starters out on here now. You'll see Will Grew and Seth McBride, who play together in Portland most of the time. So when they're on the floor, they're pretty dynamic because they know each other very, very well. And I'll have a look and see who else is on the floor. But Nick Springer's out there, and he is a defensive monster. He's very, very quick. Riyad had to get his chair fixed. Oh, and the fourth player is Andy Cohn, who is a veteran player who actually was selected as the most valuable player at the Canada Cup. Overall, not the most valuable in class, but the most valuable overall. And they're still working on equipment. The equipment people have exactly 1 minute to fix whatever's wrong with that chair, or the individual needs to be subbed. Looks like they got it fixed. And here they go. So it's interesting. They basically put their starting lineup in.
And I guess managing the energy of your team and your resources throughout a long tournament is equally important.
Yeah, it very much so is. Japan is probably loving this because Japan is going to end up playing the U.S. in the semi-final. So they're probably watching and loving the fact that the U.S. is playing their top players.
First score for Nick Springer, the number 9, another player from Phoenix.
Even though you only play one game a day, you're still playing 5 or 6 in a row. Come on.
All the more reason for
All right, they got it over half.
For the importance of the warm-up events that you were talking about
and
earlier.
That's what they're used for.
Getting game time and tournament time and dealing with the pressure.
Now they've got about 20 seconds left on that 40-second score clock, so they have to score within 40 seconds.
Eric Maurice is the man.
I think Andy will get a penalty for that, yeah. So you see he reached in to get the ball, but got a bit of the arm. When you get a bit of the arm, you're in the penalty box. Yeah, he got the hand. Actually, he got a lot of ball, didn't he?
Well, the ball was open. He's allowed to get it if it's not being held by
Maurice. Get it. That might have, he had a lot of ball there. He had a legitimate complaint. But it's okay. They'll be fine.
I think his gloves have seen a bit of action in this Paralympics so far.
14-5 for the U.S.
Well,
and
Salem's chair is not good. That's the second or third time they've had to have a look at it.
Most of these players come with 2 or 3 extra wheels because you get flats and you get bent axles, and when you're getting hit like this, the wheels don't last that long.
Riyad Salem for France. Blocked off by Aoki.
Oh, and he's going to score easily.
Yeah, some good blocking work going on by Maurice as well.
That's the other thing. You'll see Riyad has the ball a lot of the time, or Chuck Aoki has the ball a lot of the time.
Oh!
And you'll think that they're the only ones doing any work, but if you watch closely, the low pointers and the other people on the floor are setting screens all the time.
Second score for Nick Springer. 15-6 advantage to the United States.
And they're just continuing to keep Riyad out of the game. A long ball. Oh, that's good job. Got to get in.
Nicolas Riou being chased all the way by Andy Cohn.
15-7. 2:42 to go in the first period. This is Will Grew. Will Grew's been playing for about 10 years, and he is a phenomenal player. He's a two-pointer who can throw the ball halfway down the court, and you see he's got really long arms. It creates a lot of speed when he gets going.
What sort of players are you picking up when it comes to refugees from other sports, if they don't go directly to wheelchair rugby, Duncan?
Well, we look at basketball. There's basketball players that play as juniors. There's a lot more junior programming in basketball. So we look there because some of the players that can play rugby probably have a lot more potential to make a national team as rugby players than they do as basketball players. So we look at a lot at junior basketball programs, junior wheelchair basketball programs. Otherwise, we look everywhere. You name it. We're looking all over the place.
And I guess you must be coming across some people who, until a Paralympics and until there's a profile event on, not entirely aware the sport is out there sometimes.
That's right. Now, a lot of countries do a lot of work on recruitment and awareness. Canada does a ton of it in terms of making people aware of what's there. There's another penalty to France for, I think he hit him in the head.
Eric Maurice, the number 2 for France.
Yeah, he was going for the ball, but he whacked him in the head, and off he goes for a minute. A lot of countries are doing a lot of recruitment programming just specifically to get people with physical disabilities more aware of the sports they can participate in. Maybe not even specifically rugby. I know the one that we do in Canada is a multi-sport awareness program because we know that people choose different things too. Not everybody wants to be a rugby player. Not everybody likes the aggression and the hitting involved in rugby.
Some people want to be Patrick Anderson.
Or a tennis player.
Absolutely.
Or a swimmer. 18-7. There's Seth McBride. He's another guy that once he sees the length of his arms, he's got really long arms. And once he gets going, he flies too. And the ball's in there. France has done a pretty good job in the last couple of minutes of actually, they got to get over before 12 seconds. He's over. The U.S. is going to love that because they had to get it to a low pointer to get it over the half. They're trying to get a jump ball.
It's a dogfight in the middle.
So he couldn't get it out of there because the U.S. had him absolutely surrounded. They're reaching in all the time, and he did not dribble the ball. There is a 10-second without it. You have to dribble or pass the ball every 10 seconds. So that's what happened there, is he just could not dribble and could not pass.
It was a swarm tactic.
It was swarm, and that's what happens when a low pointer gets the ball. That's what they do, swarm.
Adrien Chalman is the number 4 on the near side, but USA come away. Andy Cohn.
You could hear that. Did you hear that? The tire go? He needs equipment. Somebody hit him and popped his tire. So you can see why they have extra wheels on the sideline.
Yeah.
And lots of them. So and these guys, the equipment guys, are the unsung heroes of this sport. They're over there, and they have to run in, do whatever is necessary within a minute, or the player has to sub. And then they got to go back to the bench and fix it. So that flat tire, they're going to go back, pull the tire off, put a tube in, put the tire back on, and pump it up. And they do it as fast as they can.
Wow.
Because within, the next play, you could have another flat tire.
Seth McBride to...
now the U.S. is going to waste some time here.
Springer again. 1:19 on the clock.
That's the other thing that could happen. The U.S. could start practicing some things that they need to work on in this particular game. But we'll see what happens.
France comes storming away. Sebastian Louisa.
That was a late hit. So Seth McBride is off to the penalty box for that. That was a late hit. These guys, even if they could get up off the floor themselves, they are not allowed to, because their chairs these chairs can make a mess of the floors when they get up. So what happens is the equipment guys, again, the unsung heroes, they have to come out, they put a mat underneath the chair, and then they flip them back up and make sure they're okay. You might think people get injured a lot in this sport, but basically this is the same as any other team sport. There's not many more injuries than there are in another team sport like rugby or football or anything. You take a natural risk because you're in a sport like this, so you have a risk of injuring your shoulder or cutting your elbow or any of those kinds of things. But you do that in the able-bodied rugby as well.
Absolutely. Sebastian Louisa, the French number 1. Riyad Salam on the scorecard again.
It's not actually a bad showing for France. They have scored 8 points, which is not bad. There's only a minute and 10 left in the first quarter. We'll see what the U.S. does in the second quarter, see if they change it up and use their bench again.
Will Grew for the United States, supporting the inside from Cohn. Salam back marking Seth McBride.
And Cohn goes in.
Inside ball for Cohn. (20-8).
France has a small team, too. They don't have a lot of people on their bench, and they really don't have anybody that can replace Riyad. So he's going to work his butt off all game because he's going to have to do the whole game, and he's going to be double-teamed the whole game more than likely.
He's putting the hard yards in at the moment.
Oh, he certainly is.
Riyad Salam.
He called that a goal? Yeah, his front wheels were in before he hit that cone. You have to get 2 wheels over the goal line to score, so I would say that his front wheels were over the goal line before he hit that cone. So he didn't go out of bounds, and that goal did count. It was a good call. There's Will Grew. He's kind of there. What they're doing now is they're going to hold up for the last goal of the quarter because there's 27 seconds left on the clock, and they probably have about the same on the score clock. And that will. A lot of teams do this so that the other team doesn't have another chance to score. And if the possession arrow, which is how you determine jump balls, if it's in the U.S.'s favor, it's like a 2-for-1 at the end of the quarter. You score, and then you get possession at the start of the next quarter.
making it look easy. The US with just 5 on the clock.
Yep, they scored with 5 seconds left. It's pretty doubtful France is going to put one in that amount of time.
It's good time management. Clock's going to run down.
And there's the end of the first quarter, 21-9, which is kind of what we expected. Kind of what we expected.
Do you expect come the other quarters, James Gumbert and the coaching staff to be rotating his players through then to make sure that no one is getting too pounded out there with more important games to come?
I would hope so. You know, he should. He's got 12 guys on the bench, and they all want to play too. That's the other thing, is he could use this game to give the guys that don't get as much playing time in the tight games lots of playing time. That's a nice catch.
Eric Maurice, the number 2 for France.
The other thing you got to remember is these guys, they're all throwing and catching, but they all have some form of disability in their hands and arms. So it looks easy, but it takes a lot of practice to get to this skill level with the disabilities that are involved.
Well, this fella is quite outstanding. The speed he can get up to and the power he generates. Likewise with Springer there, Nick Springer for the United States. Unlike in wheelchair basketball, Duncan, the coaches not only juggling their players, they're juggling the various classifications of their players as well. Yeah,
it's a tough job as a coach. You have to be able to add to 8. Basically, I'll explain that. That was a little pun. The classification system that's in place for wheelchair rugby, similar to wheelchair basketball, is you are classed based on your physical abilities by a panel of physios and physicians who are trained in how to classify. And you are classed between 0.5 and 3.5 points. That's your value on the court. You have to have 4 players on the floor, and they can only add up to 8. So if you're a 3.5 player, you're almost half the points allowed on the floor, and you got to put 3 more players out there to make up the other 4.5 points. That ensures that everybody with a quadriplegic disability gets to play the game. And it also determines a lot of strategy on the game. So if, they have Riyad Salam, and he's a 3-5, so they've got to have some low pointers out there, and those low pointers have got to have a role on the court.
So just not as simple as a coach to bring one player on for another one. He's got to...
Yeah. And if you get a really good 1 or 0.5 player, they can have a huge effect on the game, even though nobody really notices it if they don't know the game.
Chance Sumner is the number 1 for the USA, another player from the Phoenix Fusion.
Ooh, and they called that France. I think he reached for that and touched it before it went out of bounds, but they gave him it. Then the U.S. has made some changes.
Salam, a lot of power from the number 9.
That's Adam Scatoria on the floor now, and Jason Rigger's on the floor with 2 higher point players, Chance Sumner and it looks like Chuck Aoki's on the floor again. He may be Gumby. That's his nickname. The coach Gumbert. We call him Gumby. He may be experimenting with lineups a little bit just to see how they work together.
Just explain the stature of Chance Sumner's chair, because he's got a lot lower stature than some of his other teammates.
These chairs are all individually measured and designed for each individual player. And Chance likes to sit lower because then he gets more reach on his wheels. Some players that have a little more trunk muscle, they like to sit a little higher because they don't need that, and it gives them a little reach. But it's a personal preference basically.
It's designing the chair for the best possible outcome for the players, bearing in mind their physicality.
Yep.
Adam Scaturo, number 4 for the US. Sebastian Huisa's the number 1, giving it to the French main player, getting a lot of attention as ever. Salam. Huisa it is. Evading Sumner.
That was pretty good. That was nice. 23-12. 6:47 left in the second quarter.
How long does it take for a country to grow into this sport? You said that France are relative newcomers at the top level. What would you expect them in 4 years' time in Brazil?
In 4 years' time, I think they could be a lot better. They're going to go out and recruit some new players, more than likely. They now understand the game a lot better. It's said that it takes about 10 years from start to finish to get to a good level in any sport, actually, and especially as an individual player. It takes about 10 years, 10,000 hours.
Wow.
These guys, these players, too, they are they're workhorses, man. These guys have to train almost 7 days a week to make a national team in the countries where the national teams are very well developed, i.e. in the U.S. and in Canada and in Australia, Sweden. You have to work to make that team.
Chuck Aoki scoring for the USA. And I guess in a country like yours with the enormous distances you've got, there's a fair bit of travel involved as well for training camps.
It makes it tough. Same as the U.S. They have a lot of distance to travel too. They got a lot more people. They have 300 million people, whereas we have 30 million. But we still put a pretty good product on the court.
Well, that makes it all the sweeter when you win the odd game against the United States.
Here we are again. He's a very good player, and once his supporting cast gets better, they'll have a pretty good team.
He's been around a while, you were telling me earlier, Riyad Salem.
He played basketball for 18 years on the French national team. There we go.
Chuck Aoki again.
I'm not sure how he would have been at basketball because he must have had a tough time shooting with his hands the way they are. But he probably thought that was the only sport available to him.
Well, he does have tremendous ability on the ball, it seems, and also, putting power into those wheels.
Yeah, he's strong. He's a big boy. Here he comes around. And you see the low pointer's got a pick there, but it didn't hold up. The other side did.
Good pass over to the far side to Sebastian Huiser.
That was a very nice play. Number 4 set the screen, and number 1 went behind him, and Riyad hit him with the pass.
25 to 14.
Here comes Chance Sumner. You see how calm they are. They don't. The U.S. doesn't get flustered when things hit, when they get hit, or when it's close to a 12-second violation. They just don't get flustered. They're so used to it.
Adam Scaturo. France coming away again. Huiser being chased down.
12-second rule is going to come into play here because I don't think they have any timeouts. Oh, he dropped the ball. There's a turnover. Another one. And that's a penalty goal because Ed went out of bounds trying to defend him. He would have scored if he hadn't.
Yeah, a lot of attention coming from Scaturo there.
And that was that defensive chair making a difference. He just caught him. As he bounced it, he caught him, and he couldn't get the bounce.
Yeah, slowed him up entirely.
The U.S. has got them all trapped along the baseline. That's transition. The U.S. got there as soon as the whistle went. Oh, they do have a timeout left. And they had to use it. I'm pretty sure that's all of them now. Some of these staff on the bench work in multiple sports as well. There's a guy at the back of the French team's bench who referees bocce as well. Now, here we go. It's getting a little bit slow. I have to say I've been extremely impressed here in London with the crowds. The crowds have been fantastic. I've been to 3 Paralympic Games now with wheelchair rugby. I've been to Sydney and Beijing and here, and the crowds are not only filling the places up, but they are a lot of fun, and they know sport. They love sport.
Yeah, they're a passionate bunch when it comes to sport, and I think as well what's been great about these games, the amount of families who come along, and kids with mums and dads. I see all generations on the train coming up most days. We were talking the other day to Oscar Pistorius, who was making I think a salient point that kids don't really recognize disability. They see people. It's a learned thing, which is his theory, and I think there's a lot of credibility to that. And he was telling me that often you know, if a kid sees him, the mum will say, don't stare, and he takes that opportunity to go and talk to the kid and say, no, look all you like.
Yeah.
Come, and shows them exactly what he's wearing.
Yeah, I run into that all the time too. And kids ask questions, and their parents say, "Oh," and I say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay," and answer the question.
Yeah, they're
Kids are honest.
legitimate questions.
They're honest.
It's a great learning curve, I think.
I think the Paralympic Games are providing a huge opportunity for kids to learn, and just to get more comfortable with everything about people with disabilities and the awareness of how intense they are and what athletes they actually are. It's not about disability, it's about athletics. And I think the kids are learning that. I know that London has put in place a schools program where they're bringing schools, I don't know how they operate it in terms of applying and that kind of thing, but I know there are schools, whole classes here watching the games.
Yeah, you see little knots of 20 kids in the same school uniform roaring on. Saw that earlier when we were at the sitting volleyball, roaring on the players. I think the other thing to bear in mind as well, certainly in this country, which is a prime sports market with some of the biggest names when it comes to football in the world, one of the biggest leagues, is it can be financially beyond most families to actually go and see regular top league sport because it is so expensive and so oversubscribed.
You're correct. And it's the same in Canada and the same in the United States.
Yeah.
Whereas the Paralympic Games are not as expensive, and the sport is just as good.
Yeah.
All right, the U.S. has made another. They've got Joey Delgrave in there, Chance Sumner. This looks like, I think this is Derek Helton.
Number 13, Helton it is.
Yeah.
28-16 ahead.
Oh, and there's a steal. Oh, that's a big one for France. There we go. You can hear the crowd. They love it when France scores because they're the underdog.
Yeah.
Crowds love to cheer for the underdog.
They like the underdog here.
They like the underdog. That was very nice.
Sola from France is cheered loudly in London, certainly not at rugby, which I see a lot of when England plays France, entirely the opposite. But a spirited performance certainly by Riyad Salam, who's got a very good turn of pace.
11-point difference, and it looks like Moreau just took a penalty. That may be, I'm not sure what that penalty was, but there is a rule that you can't make contact with another player, a defensive player, before the whistle blows for the inbound. And you get one warning per half. So the referees may have warned France already, and then he may have done it and got that contact before the whistle penalty.
What is the thinking behind the likes of Chance Sumner there, slowing it down before they score and bringing a French player onto them even though they know they're going to score? Is that just drawing somebody out of position?
Yes, and allowing his own players to get in position for defense. It's a transition game. There's no stoppage. Really, you can inbound as quick as you want. So what they do is they slow up a little bit before they score, and that allows their own guys to get into defensive position for the throw-in for the other team. And Joey Delgrave just went out of bounds trying to defend, so he's got a penalty for going up for leaving the court to gain an advantage. You're allowed to leave the court if it doesn't make any difference, but to gain an advantage is a penalty. They're setting up 3:09 left. I'm not sure what's left on the score clock. It looks like they're setting up for a big inbound right on the goal line, but I'm not sure. He's in the key. They've got a full 40 seconds. And that's off of
Salam, I think.
Nope, they're calling it off the U.S. player.
Ah.
So it's Francis.
That'll be Scott Hogsett, number 8 for the U.S.
So he's trapped in the key, and you can only go in the key on offense for 10 seconds without turning over the ball. Oh, so he was trapped in the key. So what he did was he said all inbound, and he identified himself as the inbounder, which also creates a bit of a disadvantage for France, but it was the only way he could get out of the key. Oh. And they turned it over on the inbound. 29-17. U.S. has made some more subs. Scott Hogsett is in the game now. Chance Sumner, Joey Delgrave, and Derek Helton, I think it is. And they're going all the way down the court. That's for Derek.
Sumner booming that one long.
So now they're letting these guys get set up defensively. They just head straight for Riyadh. Here they come. That was a little speed.
Eric Maurice. It's been busy for France.
So what happened there is they France went right by the U.S. player, but he fell out of his chair. Now they won't blow the whistle unless you turn back towards him. If you turn back towards him, there's a bit of a danger involved. If you keep going the other direction, they'll let the play go on.
Just saw what you were explaining earlier, Duncan, with regards the rubber mat coming out,
Yep.
and the staff allowing to lifting the players back onto their feet.
Here we go. France has made some subs now. They've kept Riyadh on the floor, but it looks like they've got 2 2-pointers out there, which is good because they're a little faster and can carry the ball, usually.
Adrien Chalman is the number 4, who's come on. Number 8 as well as Steve Jernigan.
And he's in.
30-18.
With number 7, who's Newman, who is the low pointer on the floor, and he's setting screens. He's got Derek Helton tied up.
Pablo Newman plays for Stade Toulousain.
The other thing you learn internationally that in the long run is that a hit is not always the best play. People love rugby because you get to hit, but sometimes it's not the best play. Oh, he had the ball too.
Some more running repairs, this time to Derek Helton's chair and wheels. Another player from Arizona plays for the Pterodactyls.
And he took a penalty there. I guess he must have took a swipe at Riyadh when he stole the ball.
Riyad Salem, number 9 for France, being policed all the way by Sumner.
Nice turn. Nice little turn to get around Chance Sumner. He couldn't beat him with speed, so he beat him with a little bit of maneuverability.
Bit of guile.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very nice.
He's what you call a natural, I guess.
He is
Riyad
pretty
Salem.
good. He's got chair skills. And France has great potential in the future. You know, they've got him as their sort of cornerstone, and then they just have to get their other players in shape and get their other players a little more knowledgeable about the game, and they'll be off.
Certainly a country that likes the contact sport, passionate about their rugby union. Rugby league is popular in the south of France as well, the 13-man code.
The game is young. The game is, you know, I was one of the guys that started it, and it's 35 years old. And for a sport, that's quite young.
Yeah.
And we've just organized an international wheelchair rugby federation as an independent entity in the last 3 years. And the International Rugby Board is helping us out a lot in terms of teaching us what an organization needs to do and how it needs to act and what kinds of things it needs to do for money, all those kinds of things. It's been great, and they love the game. So we've getting a lot of support from the International Rugby Board. It's fantastic.
Joe Delagrave, scorer for the United States, 31-19, heading towards the end of the second period. Salem looking for Steve Jernigan. He came on a couple of minutes ago, number 8.
There he goes. Oh. The one thing that the U.S. team doesn't want to happen, or what Gumby, their coach, doesn't want to happen, is to have his players get lazy because this game is too easy.
Mm.
And it went right by Chance Sumner that time, and he shouldn't. He shouldn't be able to do that. So I'm wondering if they are getting a little slack.
He's almost the sort of player that if you don't get him there, he's gone.
Yeah.
You gotta stop him building up any sort of head of steam, any momentum, because once he's at pace, he's a big unit, as we were saying earlier.
This is a lot of the bench, though. This is good. The U.S. is they're not trying to kill France. Joy Delagrave is a fairly new player. Derek Hilton's a newer player. Scott Hogshead, on the other hand, is a player that's been around forever, but hasn't been seeing a lot of playing time in the first couple of games.
Chance Sumner making it 32.
There's the battle of the low pointers.
Scott Hogshead is the number 8 for the United States. Pablo Neumann for France, the number 7 you can see there alongside Steve Gauguinon.
And he went out of bounds on the inbound, and that's another kind of a thing you learn. Don't get too close to the baseline. Okay, and U.S. has subbed again. There's Will Grew. Joey Delagrave. He's left Chance Sumner on and Scott Hogshead. Yeah, he's really playing with the lineups. And there's a perfect screen. Joey Delagrave set an absolutely perfect screen on that corner. Getting the ball up. They got to get over half in 12 seconds. He's over.
Getting a bit of space and got support as well.
Now he went out of bounds to stop him, so that's a penalty goal.
Pablo Neumann.
32 seconds left in the half. They take a 5-minute half.
What's the French coach going to say, Olivier Cousin, to his side during the 5-minute break at halftime that's fast approaching? What can he say?
He's probably going to say you're playing okay. You're playing good. Just keep it going. You know, keep the effort up, and you know, you're not losing too badly. You're making a good showing.
Chance Sumner running down the
take the opportunity to play the tough teams.
Running down the clock. They know the halftime break is coming up.
And he's going to wait till there's like a second left and take it off. There we go. 2 seconds.
He's got a good sense of timing. I'll give him that.
Ball's in. And there we go.
That's it. 34-21 at the halftime break in favor of the United States in this final group game for the team who are hot favorites. Chance for the respective coaches, Olivier Cousin of France, and the man you were saying is called Gumby, James Gumbert.
James Gumbert.
Of the United States to reassess, talk to their team, talk tactics.
He's got 2 assistant coaches with him, too. There's Ed Suhr, who's the Portland coach, and Troy McGurk, who has been around for a long time as well. They're both ex-players, retired players, and Troy is from California. And he coaches the development team. The U.S. has a development team as well, a second-tier team, and Troy coaches that team. Ed and Gumby both coach this team all the time.
Let's see if we can hear what the coaches are saying, and we'll come back and talk to you in about 4 minutes' time. So we're underway in the second half, 34-21 to the United States in this final group game against France. And France actually not having a bad second period. Duncan Campbell, who originated the sport back in Canada somewhat 35 years ago, Duncan, is with us.
35 to 37 years ago. I just noticed that, he called a timeout on the way down to avoid a penalty, although that must be their fourth timeout. Just noticed that the second period was actually only 13-12 for the U.S. They got the big lead in the first period, and I know the second period they were playing with lines all over the place. They didn't turn up the defensive pressure, I'll say.
Yeah.
And if they did, I think it would have been the same as the first.
Nick Springer, the number 9 for the U.S., is back on.
We got Nick, Seth McBride, Derek Helton, and Andy Cohn on right now. And again, I've seen the U.S. play before. This is not a typical lineup. They're playing with the lines and seeing what works.
And conversely, for Olivier Cousin, the French coach, he is primarily playing the likes of this fella, the number 2, Eric Maurice, and Riyad Salem, the number 9 on the near side.
He seems to have 2 lineups that he uses. This one and the one with the number 8 and number 7. So he
who finished the second quarter.
Finished the second quarter.
Salem looking to go around the outside, unopposed. 22. Coming together there of Salem and Nick Springer.
That was a great little cutoff by Nick Springer. He just came right in front of him, had the position. Riyad sits high, so he tips over more than some might, because he does sit quite high, and he's heavy. He's a big boy up top.
Seth McBride is the number 2.
Oh, they gave Nick a penalty for that. That's very surprising.
What was illegitimate about that?
I don't know. I don't want to say anything about the referees. I will say something, though. The referees, basically, they go through an excruciating process to get to this level as well. They need to be observed at other major international tournaments. They have to apply to attend, and the selection is made by a panel of three experienced international referees who select the officials that get to come to this event. It's not just anybody can come. You have to be the best referees in the world. Same as the teams. You got to be the best referees.
Best referees making the odd decision that we don't quite understand.
Well, referees always make the odd decision that we don't quite understand, don't they?
That's the joy of sport, I think.
That's correct. Referees know that they can't always be right.
Gives you something to complain about the day after. Did you see that referee?
Yeah. They do their best. They do know the rules, but it's happening fast out there to make those decisions.
Well, as well, I think it shouldn't be underestimated, certainly in some of the major sports, that you don't really always want to make them too clinical. You don't want to take away the talking points. You don't want to deny the fans the chance to complain or bemoan their fate in soccer or rugby or hockey. We can make it, I think, the danger is making some sports a little bit too forensic.
Oh, that was almost, it's a turnover. So that was the 12-second violation. They didn't get it over half in 12 seconds. I knew it was getting very, very close.
Pressure from the United States team on the French side.
And this is the same lineup that had trouble with that at the start in the first quarter. So we'll see if the same thing happens. Seth McBride just kind of knifes through the hole.
Yeah, sailing through. Sebastian Huiser.
There's a turnover.
Yeah, he was looking for Eric Maurice. I guess if you're up against a team as good as the United States, you really don't want to be giving the ball up to the likes of Andy Cohen.
It's a game of turnovers, and I saw the stats at halftime, and I think they've already turned it over about 9 times. And that's just too many. And those are the things they have to improve as a national team.
The unforced error count, as they say in tennis.
That was nicely done.
Yeah, Salam again from Maurice. They're two most influential players, I think it's fair to say.
This is a 15-point lead. That's a front caster that's fallen off somebody's chair.
I'm sure the person who's lost it knows he's lost it.
He may not. And that's when that one takes a while to fix, so they may have to make a substitution for that one. That's not an easy fix. They don't snap in and out. You have to unbolt them, take them out, and bolt them back in. And yes, they've subbed the individual that had that. It was Nick Springer. So they put Andy Cohen and Derek Helton in with Joey Delgrave. And Seth McBride, who will take it over the goal line.
Adrien Chalman is on the number 4 for France. Also Nicolas Riol on the ball now, looking for Salem. Turns creator.
40 points already for the U.S. They could have 60 by the end of this game, and that's a lot. Most really close and well contested games, between 40 and 50 points at the end per team. The U.S. has already got 40, and there's still 5 minutes left in the third. 41 now.
Another score for the U.S. Seth McBride again.
Oh, right through. And once he gets going, he's pretty quick.
I think he's phenomenal given the limitations he has compared to some of the other players he's alongside.
Oh, I think he's great. I think he's a really good player, and he's going to be one of the better ones on the international circuit. If he can get some support, he'll be there. France will also be there. France is looking at this as a very big learning opportunity. They're very excited to be here. The other thing that happens is a lot of these teams are funded through their National Paralympic Committees, and sometimes that funding depends on whether you can make an international tournament or even medal in an international tournament.
Yeah, it can be quite brutal, the funding. If you don't have success, it can be cut.
It can be cut right off. That's happened in New Zealand, in that New Zealand lost. They didn't have a very good development program going in their country, and their team got a little bit old, and then they lost a game that put them out of the medals, and they lost a lot of funding because of it.
And they're former gold medalists as well.
They are. They got the gold in Athens.
Well, if ever there was a country that liked its rugby, it would be New Zealand.
We hope to get them back on the circuit pretty quick. I've heard they've got a few younger players now. It's important to have a development program going in your country. These guys don't last forever. Oh. He's not happy with himself on that one. He just dropped the ball.
He's got a fine head of hair as well, Riyadh Salem.
And half of it's in the back of his shirt, so we don't even know how long it is. Oh, yeah, that was just a little slip, eh? Another turnover.
Seth McBride.
44-27.
Andy Cohen with that score. Who are the leading lights that we're going to have to keep an eye on in the games to come? Certainly in the next game. I know we're now down to knockout when as far as the USA.
Yeah, we're down to semifinals. The U.S. is going to be playing Japan. Or no, they're going to be playing Canada. The U.S. is going to play Canada, and Canada has an 18-year-old by the name of Zach Medell, and this is his first. It's not his first tournament. It's the first time he's been played a lot by his coach, and he is turning into a monster. We'll see how well he does. And in the other semifinal with Australia and Japan, number 7, I always get his name. I think it's Yamamoto or something. He's number 7. He's a tall kid. He's been around since Canada Cup in 2010, and he's become quite a great player. So those two teams both have young guys coming up, and young, very, very impactful players.
Sebastian Huiser there.
The U.S., they don't really have. I don't think Chuck Aoki was in Beijing, but the rest of their team probably was, and they won gold there.
Chance Sumner was there.
I know Will Grew and Seth McBride and Andy Cohn.
Andy Cohn was there, you're right. Nick Springer was there
Nick
as well.
Springer was there. Scott Hogshead was there. Most of that team was there.
Yeah, a lot of experience to call upon.
Yeah. Some people are thinking that they might be getting a little old, but they certainly don't seem to be losing any speed or defensive pressure. And Australia actually has, they probably have the best rugby player in the world in Riley Batt on their team. But they've also picked up a kid named Chris Bond, who is also turning out to be, he's only been on the circuit for about a year and a half now that I know of, and he is looking good. So they can put two very, very fast, talented guys on the floor at one time with two low pointers, and it can make a difference.
On the attack for France, their number 8, Steve Jurguinon. So this is effectively the switch lineup as we saw in the second quarter.
This is the lineup that didn't do so badly in the second quarter, but we don't know why. In a game like this, you can't really tell why.
Well, this is your job. You got to tell me why.
Probably because the U.S. is playing with lineups and putting all sorts of people on the floor. They probably don't play together very much. There's Seth McBride, and I think Seth McBride and Will Grew play on the same team all year long in the club circuit in the U.S., so they know each other like the back of their hands.
That's right, for the Portland Pounders. I'm guessing no one wants to put their hand in down there when the ball's on the floor and there's 3 chairs coming together at pace.
They're careful. They're very careful. But somebody has to put their hand down there.
Well, it's like being a piano player. Your hands are your living.
Your money. That was another turnover. The French player went out of bounds on the goal line, so it's off to the U.S. again. You see, again, I mentioned it once before, but they're just so patient. They get hit, and they're on the sidelines, almost getting pushed out of bounds, and they just sit, and they look around, and they know somebody's going to come open.
There's a lot of awareness on the part of the American team. There always does seem to be, as you say, a man available somewhere.
And that's part of their lineup. Their main lineups, they use mid-pointers more than they use high and low pointers, so all of them can carry the ball.
When you say mid-pointers, you're talking classifications?
Yes, classification-wise. There are 2s and 2 5s. And we call them for on the arm. Illegal use of hands, they call it. So he reached in to try and get a jump ball, but he hit him on the arm, and that's a penalty. Now watch this, see if the ref had the right call this time. Oh, yeah, he had the right call. That's all over the arm. And, of course, no player ever thinks they commit any fouls.
Lovely Gallic shrug there from Eric Maurice, the man who was fouled against with his protective glasses. Number 2 had a good day for his team. But they're down by 18.
Oh, they're taking Riyadh out.
The aforementioned Maurice putting in some hard yards.
Chance Sumner back in the game.
This is Will Grew.
And another man down. The French probably have to learn a few other little things, like when somebody's going to hit you and how to avoid it. There's little things that they will learn in this tournament. They'll get one more game. They'll play Belgium tomorrow, I think, and that'll be a good game for them. They'll be much closer.
So when you originated this game, Duncan, all those years ago, is it how you envisaged it? Has it developed the way you thought it would come together?
Not even close.
Really?
We really didn't. You know, you think of the game now and you think somebody invented this game to be the way it is, but really all we were doing was trying to get a game that we could play. And it was a bit of a
contact game you wanted.
Yeah, we wanted contact because we were Canadian and we play hockey. So we did it. And at that time, though, there were no sports chairs around, or we used to play in our everyday chairs, and the equipment guys were still important then. They had to put things across your foot pedal so your chair didn't fold up when you fell out. But it has changed tremendously, absolutely unbelievably. And we never expected to create a Paralympic sport. We just wanted to play a game.
Yeah.
A team game. We wanted a team sport.
Well.
But it has come this far, and,
yes.
you know, it's amazing. I was in Sydney, and there were, 5,000 to 6,000 people in the stands. And it was just phenomenal to me. And now here, I can't believe the coverage that's here in terms of television and press. They're everywhere.
A lot of people you speak to, I think journalists and also athletes as well, cite 1992 as a bit of a breakthrough year with the games in Barcelona, certainly in this country where it started to get a profile. Paralympics this is, as opposed to wheelchair rugby on TV. Suddenly you're getting to know the games, and then there was the increase of faces. Dame Tanny Gray-Thompson, one of the famous Paralympians from this country, and the London Marathon, suddenly had its own wheelchair category as well. So the awareness has developed generally over the last 15 years or so, and alongside it with the sports like murder ball it's been growing. The awareness has been growing for all sports continuously. I remember hearing things about Seoul, and then Barcelona was a big one. That was a good one. That one, we got a little bit of coverage in the paper in Barcelona. We got some names out there for some of our athletes that were doing well. Voice of Duncan Campbell, one of the originators of this sport from a few years ago. You still play, Duncan?
I still do. At a local level, I play. I love to play the game. It's that's why we created it, just so we could play.
How old's your chair?
Well, I just got a new one.
Which means you play a lot.
I just got a new one this year. But mine lasts a little longer than these guys. Mine last about 5 years. Maybe 4 or 5 years. Plus, I'm Scottish, so I'm a little cheap. Don't want to buy a new one every couple of years.
Yeah, that was Duncan Campbell saying that, not me.
It's like buying a new car. There's the U.S. putting another one over the line. 53-31 at the end of the third. We're almost at the end of the third period now. We got 1 minute and 20 left. And the U.S. is just rotating lines and not really worrying about who's on the floor at what time, I don't think. France has given Riyad Salam a rest for a little while. He hasn't been on the floor for a bit.
Well, he had a tough day at the coalface, I think, in the first, certainly the first half. Seemed to be everywhere for France.
Yeah, he has a tough game every game because whenever he's on the floor, the other team is going to focus on him. They're going to play defense against him because he's the difference maker.
Steve Guernignon for the French team, looking for the gap that appears on the far side.
That was nicely done by Roux. He set up a nice little pick there. Nice little screen so he could come right around. He's just going to go. Is he going to get it?
Is that staying in for...
Oh, he did get it, and he went right to
Chance Sumner.
There's another little French mistake there in that, Chance Sumner was going for the ball, and what the French player probably should have done is get in front of him. But he didn't, and he could have, but he hit him instead of going in front of him. You get in front of him, and he can't score. You hit him, and you're on the ground. And he scores. Little things they have to learn.
Maybe, Steve, you're going on as a sort of player, as we were talking earlier, who is there for the contact. Probably thought he was going to bounce him into touch.
Could it be? Could have been trying that. But Chance is a big boy, too. He's a big guy, and it's hard to move him. There's Nick, whose chair fell apart earlier in the game. I wonder if it's fixed now.
If your chair completely falls apart, you're out of the game. Is that it? Or can you borrow somebody else's?
No, you're basically out of the game. No, nobody else is going to work for you anyway, because they're so well designed and so specific to each individual. But it's very, very rare that a chair actually falls apart completely. In fact, I don't think it ever happens. They're built really, really strong. They weigh about 50 pounds.
Really?
Whereas a regular chair, you know, an everyday chair can weigh between 13 and 30. These things weigh 45 to 50. And yeah, actually, though, they're designed in such a way with the camber of the wheels, which is the slant, and the way you sit and how low you sit, that you can really fly in them. They're great. I'm not sure what Olivier's laughing at. I think they had a bit of an issue with the referees. .45 seconds left in the third period. The U.S. is subbed again. They get Joey Delagrave back in the game, and Joey will see a lot of floor time. He's basically a rookie.
Chad Cohn on as well.
Chad Cohn. He hasn't been on very much in the tournament.
Another player from Arizona for the Pterodactyls of Tucson. Got players from the Phoenix Fusion, Portland Pounders.
Oh, Will's in the penalty box.
The Denver Harlequins and the Sharp Edge. Andy Cohn plays for the Sharp Edge of San Diego in California.
I didn't see why Will was in the penalty box. But so the U.S. is 3-on-4 right now, and they may score. In fact, they will.
I think on that occasion, Sebastian Huiso was probably trying to attempt what you were advising earlier on Chance Sumner, but he's just too good. He came inside.
Yeah, he knew he was coming. There they go. So France is 4-on-3 right now. So they should score. You know, when you're 4-on-3, you should score.
Clock counting down towards the end of the third. 55-32, making it 55-33 in favor of the United States.
It's a little bit like your football, where when somebody gets red carded, you're a man short, and it makes it very difficult to come back in the game.
It certainly does, yeah.
There we go. Third quarter's over.
55-33. It's something of a stroll for the United States.
22 points. And the French coach will just be, again, pumping his guys up, just telling them not to worry about it too much and just keep playing. You're doing well. You know, you're playing the best in the world, and you're not doing too badly.
USA stepping it up in the third period there. Quiet second period by their standards.
Yep. They decided to put a little more defensive pressure on and put 21 on the board. And France has been pretty consistent, putting 12 on the board every quarter, I think. Which tells you something. If they put 48 points on the board, that's not bad offensive production in a game like this. But you can't allow the other team to get 60.
Plenty of talking going on.
I wonder if they're going to put Riyadh back in the game.
Interesting to see some of the protection some of the players have got. Andy Cohn with these long gloves.
And Nick Springer with the rubber around the outside of his elbows, because he pushes with his elbows. He's got to protect that area.
And you got others with duct tape in various parts. Some of the gloves are heavily protected as well with tape and.
Yeah, and people use gardening gloves. They use anything that works for them. Bicycle gloves, gardening gloves, anything.
Effectively, it's all legal, is it?
It's all legal.
Yeah. Chairs are regulated, but
chairs are totally regulated. But I'm sure you couldn't have spikes on the outside of your gloves, but nobody's tried that yet, and somebody probably will.
Spikes on the outside of your wheels will be.
That's the other thing. They use a lot of arm warmers. Those are arm warmers for cycling, but they actually are just there to protect, because you sit so low and you're turning your chair so much. Your tires are rubbing on the inside of your arms, and you can really road rash yourself to a bloody mess. So that's what everybody is wearing the elbow protectors for.
When we say the chairs are heavily policed in terms of specifications and size, do they generally come from one manufacturer
Not one, but there are certain manufacturers in the world that almost make exclusively wheelchair rugby chairs. There's 2 in the States, and there's a couple of manufacturers in Europe, and that's what they do. Because it takes a lot longer to make a rugby chair than it does to make a chair that can be, fitted to anybody. So it takes them a while to make them. So that's all they do.
Derek Helton scoring for the United States.
Those companies are also the companies that sponsor a lot of tournaments because, that's where their business comes from. So if they're making some good money, they're going to put it back into the sport, which is fantastic because a lot of them actually get involved because of the sport and start making the chairs because they get involved with someone that knows the sport. There have been actual players who have opened up welding shops that made chairs for certain amounts of time here and there, but there's pretty specific manufacturers now, and they keep track of what all the rules are so that nobody gets nailed with illegal chairs.
And when it comes to
the manufacturer,
a serious international competition, who is going to police the chairs? I mean, we've heard a lot of talk in these Paralympics about, for example, the length of blades that runners like Pistorius and Alan Oliveira of Brazil are wearing. When it comes to this sport, who's policing the specifications?
The referees are. The referees, every team has what's called a chair check. A couple of days before the competition begins, they have to have all their chairs measured to the specifications that are allowed. And if they are not of the specifications that are allowed, they have to be fixed before they can play. So most people come with legal chairs. Nobody comes with an illegal chair. Another turnover. The U.S. seems to have all of a sudden decided to put on some defensive pressure again. Oh, but they've turned it over back to France.
That's a rare mistake.
And that's a young rookie kind of mistake because he's only got one real veteran player on the floor right now, and that's Andy Cohn. He's got Joey Delagrave, Andy Cohn, Adam Scacuro, and Derek Helton. So Andy Cohn is the only player that's a real vet, and he's been around for a long time. I'm not sure if he played in Sydney, but I know he played in Athens, Beijing, and here.
He didn't play in Sydney. You're right, but he played. He did play in the bronze medal winning team in Athens in Greece.
Nicely done. Oh, that was not a very good call, but no, we won't say that. That was really nice. The French guy stuffed him on the inbound and created a turnover and scored. So I think there's only one player in the world that has been at every Paralympic event that wheelchair rugby's been involved in, and that's Garrett Hickling from Canada. He was in Atlanta, he was in Sydney, he was in Athens, he was in Beijing, and he is here.
Is he coming towards the end of his days? Surely.
He is. He's still a very, very good player and can create turnovers, and he's worked harder in probably the last 5-10 years than he did in the first 5 or 10. He was kind of a natural then and didn't have to work as hard. And now he's had a lot of competition from the younger players and has had to work and has to keep himself on the team. And he's a very smart player. He's probably one of the smartest players in the world.
What age would you say that a talented player peaks at this game?
I'd say in their early 30s. I'd say early 30s. That's when they, or late 20s. It depends on when they start the game because people don't start, as kids. And a lot of these players have had traumatic injuries with spinal cord injuries or amputations, whatever it is. And they may start when they're later in age. But it takes about, it's rare that it takes less than 5 years to make a national team now. But these guys, late 20s, early 30s is probably the best time. There's another turnover. That's a jump ball. The ball's underneath Derek Helton's chair. That's an automatic jump ball call. And jump balls are determined by the possession arrow. Wholesale substitutions. 5:39 left in the fourth quarter.
Here come the big boys.
So he's going with us. Well, actually, he's not even going with the high-low lineup. He's going with the 2 ball carriers and 2 low-point picker players, screener players. And Riyad's coming back on the floor for France. So we got wholesale changes on both sides. USA has officially scored 60 points now.
Adrian Chalman is on the number 4 for France. Steve Gurginon stays on.
That was nicely done. That was flicked and Chance Sumner hit it. So it's turnover, France's ball.
Christophe Corompt as well is the man in the background.
The tap by Chance that puts it into France's hands.
Getting a lot of heat.
I agree. We got him back on the floor, so he should make a little bit of a difference. Oh, the Chance has got him lined up. 12-second rule. There it goes.
So even though he didn't stop him, he delayed him enough to get that turnover ball.
That 12-second rule. And France has no timeouts left, so he had to just try and make it. There's Will Grew's got the ball. You can see that Scott and Jason have set picks on Riyad, so he can't create any trouble defensively. And Will is going to, now they're going to call a penalty on the French player. So he must have reached in. Journal.
Christophe Corompt for France.
Where's he going to go with the ball? Okay, so they got it in a low pointer's hands and back into another low pointer's hands. Chance Sumner is just drooling at that. Here we go. He's got to get rid of it. Oh, and he does. Good play. France puts another one on the board. 4:56 left in the game. They're still working hard out there. The 2 French players have double-teamed Chance. He gets out of it, it looks like. Because they've got Scott Hodgson is inbounding, so they've got a low pointer inbounding. He might not have as much range as someone else, but he gets it into Chance. He goes around the corner, follows his screens, gets hit, but he's over half. And then he just patiently sits and waits for somebody to come open, and Will Grew comes open.
62-37, heading towards the conclusion of this game. How would you rate the USA performance so far, Duncan?
Well, it's exactly what we expected, isn't it? They're dominant. They probably could be more dominant. They've used everybody on the bench, which is great. You know, they haven't. One of the things about our sport or wheelchair rugby is we want teams to get better, so we don't want to discourage them. So they have used their whole bench, and they've allowed France to have a pretty good game. I'm pretty sure it could have been a lot worse.
I'll take your point.
62-37.
Riyad Salam scoring again for France. Their main man.
I think France has called it what's called a bench timeout. So the coach has called a timeout just to talk to them about what they're doing out there. So he's teaching them. That's what he has to do at this point. That looks like a basketball skill to me. He probably learned that playing basketball. This is why we look at junior basketball programs a lot for recruiting players. Oh, that was nice. The French are making it a little more difficult to inbound the ball. Scott Hodge is inbounding. Into Chance. And Chance is out of there. He should get over half. Oh, he's gonna. Oh.
Well, he didn't have control of that.
That wasn't the best. He led him a little too far. I think that's probably what the Gumby doesn't want. Their coach, Gumbert, doesn't want those kinds of things happening.
Now, if he'd had it in one hand and it was under control, that would have been a score.
Yes, if he caught it, yeah. He has to catch it. You got to have control before you cross the goal line. Here we go. He's got to get rid of it.
Riyad Salam.
He's got nobody to get it to. Is he going to make it? Oh, he made it.
A lot of power in his game.
As well. Will Grew coming up the floor. Double team, but he'll patiently wait for someone else to come open or for himself to get off. He gets off. .342, 63 to 39. France has got 3 minutes and 41 seconds, and I think a good game for them would be to get to maybe, if they could get to 45 points, that'd be good for them.
What sort of coverage is this sport going to be getting at the moment back home in Canada, apart from where we are on Paralympic Sport TV?
Actually, it's sad and unfortunate, but we won't get very good coverage in Canada. My understanding is we're getting about 1 hour a day of a highlight package from CTV, and maybe a little bit on the news. We're not getting any live coverage, and we're not getting, any decent amount of coverage. And it's surprising because we held the Olympics and Paralympics, the Winter Olympics and Paralympics in Vancouver in 2010, and there was a huge demand to get coverage from the same television broadcaster, and they actually broadcast the opening ceremonies and weren't going to, but broadcast the opening ceremonies for the Paralympics. And then there was such a viewership that they had no problem broadcasting the closing ceremonies to the whole of the country. They only broadcast the opening ceremonies in British Columbia, which is the province that was hosting. So it's not good. We try hard to make it better and to make our point. But in Canada and the U.S., a lot of things are determined by sponsorship and sales of advertising. And I don't think that they think they can sell advertising. I know the U.S. is not good either. In fact, I think the U.S. is even worse. So I'm very excited about the coverage that's here. Channel 4 is 18 hours a day.
In this country?
In this country. And Paralympic Sport TV webcasting is fantastic because anybody can pick it up. And I know people that are watching right now back in Canada, and I'll say hello to them. I don't know who exactly is watching right now, but hello, Canada.
Duncan Campbell giving us his expertise on this game that's emphatically gone the way of the United States by 64 to 40 so far. But here's a man who this crowd does seem to love, Riyad Salam.
Just made it all the way up the floor.
I mean, he cuts an imposing figure as well, and I think probably the most imposing figure on this game. He looks action, doesn't he?
He's big.
He's got an image about him.
He's big.
Flamboyant figure. Chance Sumner, who's had a good day as well for the United States. He's what we say in football, a canny player. You know, he's got guile. He's a thinker.
He's going to be excellent in the long run. I want to say thanks to Paralympic Sport TV for doing the broadcasting they're doing too. They're creating a lot of social awareness themselves, and they've come from a very small little entity to quite a large organization now, and they're putting on a lot of coverage, and it's fantastic. People are aware of it. Webcasting is becoming much more the norm for the day. And people are realizing that they don't have to watch TV. They can go to a webcast, and the quality and the coverage is just as good.
Well, it's going to get better and better as the years progress. If we compare the broadband speeds of 4 years ago in some of the big markets, you'd have seen a definite increase in quality and in speed, which allows you to watch. And, you know, more and more these days, as you know, Duncan, you think less about your computer and your TV. They're starting to blur together. I've got the odd device that puts anything on my computer on my TV, and you know, I think in the future that's obviously how it's going to be. And
yep,
webcasting,
that's the way it's going.
Very important. We probably won't even call it webcasting in the future. It'll just be there.
It'll be there. All right, we got a minute and 56 left. 66-42.
It's got to get those two wheels on the line. Salam, is he going to go the long way around, or is he going to come back the same way?
Still got lots of time on the score clock. There's still 19, 18 seconds. And he's in. Nicely done.
He's a determined player. You've got to admire his never say die attitude.
And, you know, going back and forth across the key like that helps his other players, because the U.S. team has to move when he goes, and then they can move in and set screens for him. He's actually setting up his own plays.
Number 10 for the United States, Will Group.
67-43. They got a minute and 30. I was hoping they made 45, but they're at 43 with a minute and 30 to go.
Well, we shall see.
I know that some teams set goals in terms of how many goals they score and how many they don't allow. He's switching up the lineups, going back to that starting lineup that he used.
Mathieu Moreau is on the number 10.
Making sure everybody gets playing time, and France has got to do that.
Sebastian Louisa is on as well for France, the player from the Atlantique Rugby Club.
All right, they're going for 44. Minute and 23 left. If they get 44 here, they'll have a chance at 45. And they've got 44.
Nothing that Sumner could do. We were talking earlier about how this sport has evolved, Duncan. Beyond effectively what you considered initially, but how have the rules evolved? Are they radically different to what you first drew up in the mid-70s?
They're not radically different, but they're 40 pages now, and what we drew up in the 70s was 2. So they haven't changed radically, but they are changing constantly, as with any sport. And one of the big changes we made in Beijing and after Athens was we put the 40-second score clock in. Because, you know, coaches will do whatever they can to get their wins. Teams were starting to slow up the game and just play keep away with 6 and 7 minutes left in the game, and it was just boring. It just was not fun to watch, and basically wasn't really that much fun to play. So it took a long time to make the change, but we put the 40-second score clock in and put the 12 seconds to get over half in, and it has changed the game drastically in terms of how you can play, the strategies you can use. All those things have changed because of that clock, and that makes a big difference to the game.
So we're talking about fine-tuning of the rules that were laid down by the Founding Fathers.
That's right, and usually the fine-tuning is because the coaches find a glitch.
Yeah.
And take advantage of it. And I'm sure that will continue.
Well, it happens in every sport,
exactly.
I think, to be fair, you know. And new technologies as well.
Tennis with their tennis has the video review now.
Yes, that's true. Yes, it's coming to cricket. It's coming to tennis. It's in rugby. It's creeping as well into soccer, into football,
and ice hockey.
Yep.
Come on. Oh, they didn't make 45.
They made 44.
They made 44. I would say that France should come out of this with being happy. They have played a pretty good game. They're playing the best in the world. And the U.S. is just going to come out rested. Nobody played too much. They made sure that everybody on the bench played. All the bench players got lots of playing time. And they're coming out with their win, and they're probably just going to think about who they have to play tomorrow, which is Canada.
Likes of Chucky, we saw him in the first quarter. Didn't see too much from after that. I think he came back on. That's a conscious decision by James Gumbert, is it, to rest one of his pivotal players?
Yeah, and the thing about the U.S.-Canada sort of rivalry, which you can find out about a lot more in that Murder Ball documentary you were talking about. That documentary is a lot of fun to watch, and it concentrates on the Canada-U.S. rivalry, and that rivalry still exists. And Canada, for some reason, plays the U.S. very, very tough. They can lose to, in the World Championships, they lost to Sweden, and they had a real tough game against Belgium, who are ranked quite a bit below them. But they played the U.S., and they lost by 2 points in the fourth quarter, and they were up by 4 for most of the game. So it's, Canada they just get up for playing against the U.S. I think it's a little bit like Maybe the English and the French.
I think one of the problems with being English is that most countries you play against have got some sort of historical concern, let's say, dating back from
yeah, I imagine so.
empires and wars of years gone by, including the French, the Germans, the Scots, the Irish. The list can go on, but
the fans are thanking the players, and the players are thanking the fans. It's wonderful. This is fantastic.
yeah, it's been a good raucous crowd. I mean, they're aware that this is a group game. They're also aware they're seeing a talented outfit in the United States, and home concerns aside, Duncan, how close are the Canadian team, do you think, to the American team? Is it?
They have to have one of the best games they've ever played, basically. They can do it. Nobody expects them to do it, though. I'll put it that way. I don't want to say that. Nobody else expects them to do that.
Well, we shall see. It's a one-off game. It's winner takes all. It isn't.
That's right.
Group stage ended with this one between the United States and this French team.
Semifinals are tomorrow.
Starman for France was undoubtedly the big number 9. We had Salam, who was everywhere, all action, all motion, but points came easy to Will Grew and Andy Cohn and Seth McBride and Chance Sumner for the United States. 21-9 was the first quarter score. Closer in the second quarter.
Yeah, they had one quarter where they were close. But, you can't let somebody score 60-some-odd points and expect to win a game.
55-33 the score after the third, and then 70-44 to the United States, who've got a lot of passionate support here as well, as indeed have the French, who've come over and down the tunnel from the other side of the channel.
Hope you enjoyed it, and, if you get another chance, the semis are tomorrow, and they will be fantastic games. Thanks, Paralympic Sport TV, for putting this on.
Well, Duncan Campbell, thank you for your expertise, and it's been great hearing the old stories and getting your analysis, and we hope to talk to you again on Paralympic Sport TV. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And from myself, Francis Collings, that's it from this event, and we'll come back and chat soon. Bye-bye.
Well, a very good evening to you from London 2012. This is a big one, a very, very big evening tonight at Excel. My name's Amy Bainbridge. In front of you can see the athletes in the sitting volleyball teams that are going to contest the bronze medal match, and then later on tonight we have the gold medal match. So the teams in front of you going for bronze are the Ukraine and the Netherlands. The Ukraine lost to the USA in the semi-final, and the Netherlands almost pulled off the tournament's biggest shock after taking China to 5 sets in their semi-final. They eventually lost 3-2. Ukraine is ranked number 3 in the world, and they did beat the Netherlands 3-1 during pool play, and are narrow favourites for bronze. But I do stress narrow favourites because, well, this is a final and this could go either way. Very, very similar results throughout the tournament. Look, playing off for the gold medal tonight is China and the USA. That is, of course, the rematch of the Beijing 2008 Paralympic Games gold medal match. That was won by the Chinese. And China beat USA during pool play. China is the world number 1 team and the USA world number 2. So fitting that both teams are meeting in the gold medal match. But our focus now, in just 3 minutes' time, this bronze medal match will get underway. Excel is packed this evening. Here we have the officials walking out onto the court. It has been a fantastic day of competition at London 2012. I just can't tell you how good it's been. The weather has been phenomenal. It is hot, sunny, a very, very light breeze, and just divine to be out and about at Olympic Park. And so many people have taken the opportunity to get behind these Paralympic Games and enjoy such a spectacular week. So there we have Joe Campbell from the USA and France Marcoux from Canada.